take a look at your policy. If you're at the statutory rates, get that fixed, because you can be on the hook for all the money over whatever your threshold is. So if you have a $15,000 limit, that is nothing today.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to another airing of Grievances. This is Eric Reamer, Robert Grieve, and a happy Saturday to you. Rob, happy Saturday to you, my friend.
You just celebrated Thanksgiving. I hope it was a wonderful day for you guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We're super glad that you're here. If you don't mind, give us a big thumbs up if you like the content of the channel. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, by all means, just subscribe. It's free. Click the notification bell. That lets you know when we actually go live with another preview or premiere. And if you wonder when that is, it's every Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. in the Mountain Standard Time. All right, Rob. I'm going to set up a scenario for you, and folks, we apologize a little bit for the sound behind us, but this is a working day for us, and so we've got the shop in full function going on. Set up a scenario for you here. I'm minding my own business, driving on city streets, and I'm at a stoplight, and somebody comes barreling in and hits me from behind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My first question to you is, whose insurance should I contact in order to handle this case? And maybe they hit me from behind and I hit somebody in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That happens quite often.
Yeah. Whose insurance do I call? Theirs or mine?
Okay, well, there's every situation, like every accident, is unusual.
Yeah.
Or different, let's say.
Sure.
Circumstances are different, and keep in mind, we're not lawyers.
We don't play one on TV or YouTube.
We're talking about from a practical application of getting your vehicle repaired.
Yes.
If there's injuries, I always advise you contact a lawyer.
Of course.
But if it's just about getting your car fixed, you have a bunch of decisions to make.
All right.
And whether you're going to go through your party, your insurance company, or the other person's insurance company, there's a lot of factors to consider.
All right.
When somebody calls and asks us, should I go through mine or should I go through the others, the first question out of our mouth is, who's your insurance company and who's insuring the person to hit you?
Okay. So, and I know you well enough to know that question that we ask of the person asking us is designed to assess. We've talked many times on this channel about there are some really upstanding insurers. Just to name a few, we've got AIG, Chubb, Amica.
Auto Owners is doing a great job lately.
Yeah, so we've named those. I'll put a link to the video that we actually came out and named those and talked a little more in detail about them. And there's some other insurers that complicate things.
Yeah.
They drag things out. They refuse to pay for certain repairs, proper repairs.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked, any one of our videos, you'll probably hear us talk about one or two of those. So we ask, who do you have?
Yeah, we ask who you have because we know, depending on which insurer, which is going to be the easiest way for you to do it.
Okay.
All right. So if you happen to maybe have not watched one of these series and don't have one of the better insurance companies, and the other person does, we may say, let's just go through the other person's insurance. Because that's going to make it go faster, because they're an upstanding insurance company or are there to repair the car and get you back on the road.
So an interesting thing here, Rob, and this is just me, the average guy on the road, talking here. I didn't realize until we started prepping for this video that I even had a choice of going through the guy who hit me, their insurance, or my own.
Yep. When that's a choice that you need to make, if somebody has done the damage to you.
Yeah.
And, there's pluses and minuses to both sides of the equation.
Okay.
Let's talk about just a couple of them. If you go through your own policy, you have a contract with that insurance company that says, this is what's going to happen after you've had an accident, and this is how we're going to approach it.
Regardless of who caused the accident.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Got it.
Your policy is going to kick in. If you go through the other person's insurance company, they have an obligation to you, but they have a bigger obligation to their insured. So, depending again on what company it is, they could drag things out. They could not pay for proper repairs. They're going to make it as little as they can.
Sure.
All right. And again, you don't have a big argument with that company because you don't have any relationship with them. You have no contract with them.
Right.
So let's go back to the beginning real quick and say somebody hit you and damaged your vehicle. I don't care if it's a rear end or a side hit or whatever.
Sure.
A rear end is a clean one because 9 out of 10, it's obviously the other person's fault.
Right.
So the fact that they have insurance, that's the good news. Even if it's a crappy company, it's still good news. They have insurance.
Sure.
Whether they have insurance or don't have insurance, or whether they have crappy insurance or no, or not, they are the one liable personally
For the accident.
Yeah. And so, in the end, if they happen to have a not so good insurance company and you decide to go through them, and there's lots of reasons to do that, it may turn out to be a little bit of a fight. And in the end, if they decide not to choose to fix your car properly and put it back to pre-loss condition, then you may end up having to sue the person that hit you to get the rest. And they're on the hook for it.
Yeah.
But when that happens, let's just say, they won't pay to do pre-scans and post-scans because they don't feel like, they want to pay for that.
Right.
And this is the other person's insurance company.
Which we're on the record is pre-scans, post-scans are a given.
They're necessary.
Yeah.
So let's just say they don't want to pay those. And they need to be done. So if the car was here, they would be getting done.
Right.
Somebody owes for that. Well, the person that owes for that is actually the person that hit you. And if the insurance company doesn't want to pay to fix your car properly or put it back to pre-loss condition, the way it was before the accident,
yep,
then when you decide that you have to sue that person to get it back to where you want it to be, that now opens up their legal liability part of the policy, where you're that person and you're going to get sued. Now the insurance company has to kick in and pay for all your legal fees and so on and so forth. And sometimes that's enough just to scare them to pay it. Just pay the claim and not go through all that. Some other insurance companies will go through all that.
Okay.
So, that's one of the... Going through the other person's insurance company, depending on what company it is, can be painful.
Let's talk about another element of going through somebody else's insurance. They may or may not have a small limit on their coverage.
Yeah, if that person is one of those people that did get insurance, but they have the statutory insurance, I think that's $15,000 in property damage.
Bare minimum.
And they hit you and you have a $30,000 truck and it becomes a total loss, well, now there's not enough money in the policy to pay you. So now you are at a point where you can take the $15,000, maybe, because if you were pushed into somebody else, now there's another party that's looking to tap into that $15,000 limit. And then the rental expense goes against that $15,000 limit, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah. That's when you may just want to go through your own policy and let your own policy subrogate against them. and get the difference.
We've talked in previous videos about the rental policy. Do you have it included in your insurance or not? That's something you should look up. But let's revisit that for a minute since you brought it up.
Yeah.
In many cases, you see rental policies have limits on the number of days.
They have all different ways. I mean,
Yeah.
some will say you have a max of $750. Some will say you have a max of $20 a day for 30 days. Some, there's all different things. And you can upgrade most of those policies, and I recommend that you do.
Yeah.
Because today it takes much longer to fix a car than it did before for the parts delays and
Sure.
and the insurance companies are delaying things because they're not fully staffed in a lot of cases. So it's taking longer to get things, to the point where we can actually start repairing a vehicle. So if that takes 2 weeks, whether it's your own policy or their policy, that's 2 weeks that you've eaten up of rental that you may have a limit. You will have a limit on your own policy.
Right.
But if you went through the other person's policy, you wouldn't have a limit.
Now, wait a minute. If I go through their policy, the offender who hit me, there's no limit on that rental policy?
No, because there's a limit for them, but there's not a limit for you because you're the one that's been damaged.
I see.
And whatever it takes to
get you back.
To get you back. I mean, if there's some pretty bad parts delays right out here, and it's causing the insurance companies a lot of pain because the cars are sitting here, people in rentals waiting for parts.
Okay. So we talked about some of the benefits of going through the other person's insurance. Are there any benefits to going through our own?
Yes. Again, your policy spells out what they're going to do, and you have a contract with them that they have to fulfill X, 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 and X, and X.
Right.
One of the downsides of going through your own policy is you're going to have to pay your deductible. Now, if it's going against, if your insurance company goes against the other company and segregates and gets the money back, there's a chance you'll recover some, if not all, of your deductible at some point in the future.
Gotcha.
Not anytime soon.
But if you decide to go through your insurance policy, you're going to have to come up with that deductible on the front side.
You're going to have limits on your rental if you have rental coverage. But let's go the other direction and say you have an OEM parts rider on your policy, which means your insurance company is obligated to pay for all brand new original equipment parts for your vehicle and not any knockoffs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, now your policy is probably better than their policy. And while you could force them to pay for all the right parts and stuff like that, it's
a fight.
It's a fight. It all depends on how much effort you want to put into this. So the easiest way to do this is go through your own policy if you have a good company. And you should have the riders. I mean, that's why I'm saying that every situation is a little bit different.
Yeah. As we head into the new year, we should probably say this is a good time for you to pull out your policy. If you don't have it written, and I didn't when I was first asked.
Very few people have the actual policy, believe it or not.
Yeah, all we get is we sign on the dotted line, they put something in their files, and then we got insurance.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, you don't even know what the insuring agreement is,
right,
and what's included and what's not included until you have that loss. That's a bad place to be.
Yeah,
you should know that before there's ever a loss.
There are hundreds of pages involved in your policy that are very small type that you should probably be aware of. So,
and always get underinsured and uninsured put on your policy.
Okay.
That's an important piece, and it's not that expensive.
I see. Okay.
Should that person not have enough insurance or not have any insurance, then your insurance company kicks in, but there's still a deductible in most cases on that as well. So,
gotcha. Well, there's lots of things to talk about. We covered the length of time to settle a claim. These are unprecedented times. That we are in, just because of the nature of the supply chain globally, and it is affecting the length of repair, the length of time that it takes for repair. And you also mentioned the shortage of staffing that every business is incurring, and the insurers are no different.
Yeah.
So
that, going back to your policy versus the other person's policy, and the length of time, per se, right out of the box, if you go through your policy, the claim is going to start right now. If you call the other person's insurance, well, they're going to need to do an investigation and get that person on the phone, they're insured on the phone, find out what happened, and that can take a week to 2 weeks, depending on, how responsive their insured is, and what their insured says. And, if you're talking to them and you tell them your version of what happened, it doesn't match up with the other person's version, well, now there could be, are we really at fault, aren't we at fault? And this could drag out sometimes. Whereas if you go through your own policy, you're covered, and now your insurance company is going to fight for you to get the money back from the other company. So there's one reason to go through your own. But again, you got to look at, how the policy is written. Do you actually have a good policy? There's a lot that goes into this.
There is. And, of course, we are always available for your questions. If you have questions, call the phone number listed on the screen right here, right now. And we're happy to take your questions. We won't charge you a penny for that. That's information that we're happy to provide.
Yeah.
Anything else that you got on your mind, Ron?
No, it's just, this is a tough question, and people get faced with it today.
Yeah.
Because, we're not up on a lot of accidents, but we're up on the severity of the accidents.
Right.
And, this was a simple rear-end hit in this particular case that brought it to my mind. But they got hit so hard it buckled the frame on this Ford pickup truck, and that's a robust frame.
Yeah.
And it's going to need a frame. So again, it's going up. Yeah. The cost and the time, and by the way, a brand new frame is probably 15, 16 weeks out. Do you have the coverage for that?
And if you go through somebody else's insurance, the person who hit you, don't forget that situation, that pickup ran into
somebody else
in front of them. So
yeah, and there's a lot of that going on. So the clean way to do it is to go through your own. That takes a lot of misery out of it. I still would rather see you go through the other person's if they have a good insurance company, because they're the ones at fault. Why put that on your own company?
Yeah.
Again, depending on how they're going to act, and you may start with them, but let's just say they had that accident, the car's not drivable, they need a rental right now.
Right.
You're not going to get a rental right now from the other insurance company because they have to do an investigation first before they decide to take liability for it.
Right.
Your own company would provide you a rental right now. So there's a lot of different things, and maybe you have another car and you don't need a rental, and that's not even part of the equation.
Right.
But you're still owed loss of use from the other insurance company. And if you drive a Maserati and they hit you, that other insurance company, if you go through them, owes you a like, kind, and quality rental car, which your own policy may not pay for that. So,
right.
We'd like to approach it on a case-by-case basis, defaulting to going through the other person's policy. But again, each situation's a little unique, and
I've learned a bunch of stuff in the course of this conversation, and even the fact that you have options. I didn't realize. I figured if you got hit by somebody else, you always go through them unless they don't have insurance. Now I've learned otherwise, and the reasons why we may want to invoke other choices.
Right. And if you're, take a look at your policy. If you're at the statutory rates, get that fixed, because you can be on the hook for all the money over whatever your threshold is. So if you have a $15,000 limit, that is nothing today to get cars fixed. And if there's more than one car involved and lengthy rentals and all the rest of that, that can fall back on you. Don't let that happen.
Yeah.
Get a robust policy, and we talked about some of that when we went through the insurance division.
Yes, the Department of Insurance. I'll put a link to that video right up here. The Department of Insurance actually has tools that can show you the different cost estimates for your insurance policies. And once a year it's always good just to review your policy, go through it, check it out, see if it's doing everything that that you should be talking about, including the rental policy, including not your statutory or baseline minimums in coverage. There are a bunch of OEM riders. These are just things that
everybody should have an OEM rider unless it's already included in the policy.
Yeah.
My policy with AIG, it's already in there. I don't need a rider.
Yeah.
And in my case, my policy is probably going to be better than anybody else's policy that might hit me.
Yeah, I didn't have such a rider, but I went out and bought one, and
it's cheap.
A couple of bucks.
Yeah, it's cheap.
So
they don't tell you about it because it's cheap and it costs some money if it ever has to be used.
Yes, yes. Rob, my friend.
Hey,
thank you for your wisdom.
Happy Thanksgiving. We have so much to be grateful for, so I hope you had a wonderful day.
Absolutely.
That said, have a great week.